Hello and welcome back. Today I'm going to talk to you about how you might adapt encoding to be an online remote learning activity. As you can see here, I have a kindergarten encoding sheet. There's some scaffold on it with some of the letters for the student to trace. I'm going to show you a strategy that I've used to adapt this, both physically and as well as online, and I'm going to show you how you can do that using interactive PowerPoints. So when I have students who have maybe a physical disability or multiple disabilities or maybe some dyspraxia and need a scaffold in order to build up into writing, they need it broken down a little more than even just the encoding sheets. I'll make them these. This is laminated. There's two levels. One's a little harder, one's a little easier, and what we would do is we would go through the encoding routine of pounding and tapping the word, and I know I just did that incorrectly, I apologize. We would go through the routine of pounding and tapping the word before spelling the word using the tags instead of having the child actually pick up a pencil and write the letter, which is a little bit of a scaffold for students who may have some motor planning challenges or who may just find the task overwhelming at the very beginning. So this is my encoding sheet, and I'm going to show you how to adapt this into an online PowerPoint. Okay, one other thing I want to show you before we jump in is something that I use with these and for my very lowest readers. This is made by a student, and it is a visual guide for them to show them how to pound and tap, since as we know, the bigger piece of encoding that leads to learning and growth is the pounding and tapping piece. So the student would know they need to pound and then tap, tap, tap to make the word. Hot, hot. And they need to go through that procedure before they begin to spell. This is something that you would have to have your students make, but as you can see, I had my student make it using paints. They could also make it using markers. That would be very easy for them to do given a model over Skype or something for most students. If not, that may be a situation where you might want to involve parents or mail something out or do what you need to do to get that visual aid into their hands. Alright, but I'm going to go ahead and jump in and show you how to do this using Google Slides. We get adjusted here. As you can see, I've got my PowerPoint loaded up, and I'm just going to go ahead and format this the way that I like it. I go to Page Setup, and I'm going to choose a custom size. In this case, I want it to be portrait layout, so I'm going to do 8.5 by 11 and apply that. This way, I can make something that I could in the future print out and make into something that is hands-on that I would do in person with a student. So the way that I made my encoding sheet was using tables. I actually made it in a Google Doc, which is slightly different, but I'm going to show you how to do that in slides. So let's say I wanted to build encoding for just one word. So I'm going to get my table. Let me go back and explain my thinking here. I'm going to go to Insert, Table, and let's say I want to make a CVC word or a one-syllable word with 3 sounds. It doesn't have to be CVC. It could be a little more challenging. So I've made my table be 3 cells wide and 1 cell deep. Now I could make it larger for a multisyllabic word, or I could make it smaller for a word like go that's open syllables. But I'm going to go ahead and do it with my CVC word hot. And now one thing I like to use in slides that's not available in docs is my format options. When I have this clicked, I can go to Format and click Format Options, and it will bring up this handy little menu of choices here. So I want this to be, each square to be 1.5 inches tall and 1.5 inches wide. So what I'm going to have to do to get the width for this table is multiply that by 3 because there's 3 boxes there. So I'm going to have to actually go with 4.5 inches wide because that's the width of all three boxes together, and then 1.5 inches tall, and then you can kind of see it, not really, you can see the three boxes. Let me go ahead and make that a little bolder for you by increasing the border weight and changing the border color to black. Alright, so I have my three sound boxes here. And then one thing that I like to do, which is optional, is I like to include a visual when I'm at this level. When I'm looking at my CVC words, especially in that first half of the alphabet, I'm really looking to build that basic level of comprehension where they're understanding that a word is linked to a concept. And if you've done a good job with phonemic awareness, they should already know that, but really reinforcing that as they move into reading is an important thing, I think. And certainly, if you're working with a child who is MD, it's a big deal to reinforce that concept. So I'm going to go into my drive because I have this handy little folder full of resources, and I'm just going to look up my word hot. As you can see, I have some PEX cards here. So I have my PEX card that goes with the word hot, and I can see the word in the corner. So I'm just going to go ahead and clip that word out. Say I have a student who's a little more alert who would notice that and use that. I'm going to go ahead and clip that word right out so they can see the picture of the little boy. He's standing in the sun, wearing his shorts and short sleeves, and he's sweating, so we know that picture is showing us the concept of hot. Now, we know that when we do encoding, we use more than one word. We usually use 5 words. And then if we're with a more advanced student, we also have our sentences as well. I'm going to go ahead and just do this for the one word because it's going to be the same procedure to build this for every word. So I'm going to leave all of my boxes blank for maximum challenge for my student, but if I wanted to, I could go ahead and put in that vowel if I have a student who's still kind of struggling with that, or even a word family, OT, so that my student only has to do that first sound. So if I wanted to put in that vowel, I would type it into the box. O goes in the middle box. I would change the font. I like my Comic Sans. And then I'm going to make my font size, ooh, that's too big. Make my font size 72. And I just go and center that so that I have that vowel in. If I have someone who's lower and I want to give them that support of not having to listen for and discern that vowel. Okay, but I'm going to go ahead and leave that out. So now this is going to be the background of my picture, the background of my slide. These are the pieces that don't move, that my student's not going to be interacting with, except as a template for what they're doing. So what I need to do to make these pieces stationary is I actually need to download them as a JPEG image. And then it's going to tell me my download is complete. So what I do is I go to my slide and I delete everything off of my slide. I go to Slide, Change Background, and I'm going to choose my image. I'll browse. It'll just be in my download folder. And I'm just going to pick the image that I just created and just saved. And now my slide looks the same, but you can see if I click on this and attempt to drag it, it's not going to move, it's not going anywhere. My student can't take this and edit it and make it purple. They can't drag it off the screen and say I can't find it. They can't manipulate this at all. This is your static worksheet. It is the template where they're going to put their finished product. So now that I have this background made, I need to make my moving parts. So I will insert a shape. I'll stick with my rectangles. And then I want to go ahead and make the rectangle look the way that I want it. I want my fill to be transparent. Border black. 3 pixels. That's my personal preference. You might prefer something else. And then I'm going to go over to my format options and make sure it's just the right size. I'm going to make sure the width is 1.5 inches and the height is 1.5 inches. So you can see my box would fit right in there. If you want to make a slightly smaller box, or if you want to take off the border or make a different shape, that is completely up to you. So now that I have this box that, as you can see, I can click on it and move it wherever I want it. Now I'm going to put in my letter. So let's say I'm putting in the letter H. I want my nice, easy to read font, big, size 72 letter, and center it. So I have my H. Now here's a shortcut. I'm going to use Control C on my keyboard to copy, and then Control V to paste. And I have another letter H. I'm going to go ahead and Control V again. And now I have 3 letters. Let's say I have a student who's a little bit higher, and I'm going to go ahead and give them a distractor. So we have 4 letters, and they're going to use 3 of them. So now what I can do, I have these boxes already formatted just the way I like. Font size, font, everything is correct. So all I have to do is go in and delete the H and change that to O. Delete the H, change that to T. Delete the H. Oh, what should I use here? Maybe I'll throw in a G. Or if I really want to challenge them, I'll put in an A. They have to listen for that vowel really closely. And then what I can do is I can scramble these guys up. So let me just move them around. Doesn't have to be perfect. So now I have all the letters to spell the word hot plus 1 distractor. And what you'll notice is this is exactly what the student will be seeing when you share this with them. They can use their mouse to grab and move the letters and build the word. Ooh, and it even guides it right into place. How fancy is that? And leave their distractor out here. And they will not be able to move the rest of the pieces of this worksheet. None. The picture, the empty frame for the letters will not be moving. So they can interact with this exactly the same way as they would be interacting with my laminated sheet. So this is a great tool for your very, very beginning readers, but it can be adapted upwards for your higher readers. If you wanted to maybe take off the picture and make this be a word maybe with the vowel team, main, you would have, instead of H-O-T and A, you would have M, A-I would go in a box because it's a vowel team, it goes together, N, and then you'd have your distractor, maybe A-Y, to see if they know the rule for A-I and A-Y. So you can adapt it like that. If you need to put in a squiggle because you have a word that has a digraph in it, you can do that. Whoa, I'm not really good at that, but you can do it. So I'm making my big old squiggle. And then I can shrink it down. Doesn't look great, but it gets the idea across, and with some practice I could really make that look like what I wanted. I can make, let's see if I want to make a suffix on there. I can go into my shapes and I can add in a circle for plus ed or plus ing or whatever suffix or prefix that you're wanting to add. So this is adaptable to higher level students as well. Obviously that lower level CVC is easier to demonstrate to you. Now what I would do if I was going to use this with a student is I would go click on my share button and I would share it with that student. They would need to have a Google account for that. Maybe it's provided by the district. Maybe you have set up a free Google account for that student to use during tutoring. That is up to you how that piece works. But you would share it with the student, and the nice thing about Google Slides is when they are in the document, manipulating the document. If you have this same document loaded up on your screen, then you'll be able to watch them in real time. You'll be able to see, let's say they take the letter A for hot instead of the O, and they put the A in the middle. You'll be able to see that happening on your screen as they do it, and you'll be able to provide feedback in real time. Now, if you have a group, you have 2 students that are in this tutoring group with you, maybe it's an intervention group or a sibling group, or a pair of students that come to see you at the library normally and now they're doing this online. What I'm just going to do, this is real simple, is I'm going to go to slide and click duplicate slide. Now I have 2 of them, and you can say, Timmy, you do slide number 1, Jimmy, you do slide number 2, or you can even go in here and put their names at the top. Slide number 2 is for Jimmy. Make the font size a little bigger so Jimmy's not going to miss it. And Jimmy would just go and find his name. And then on this one I would put a text box for Timmy. Obviously, you may have guessed, Timmy and Jimmy are fake students. They do not exist. Oh, I misspelled Timmy's name. So Timmy's going to find his name and he's going to work on his, and Jimmy will find his name and he'll work on his, and you'll be able to see. I can't demonstrate this with you because this is an example. I don't have a real student using this, but you'll be able to see their mouse labeled with their name, so you'll be able to make sure they're in the correct slide and help them troubleshoot with that. Now, I wouldn't recommend doing anything this complicated with kindergarten, first grade, even second grade intervention students. But for your older students, if you have an intervention group, or if you have some parent support for some younger students who would be able to help their student get into the correct document, that is something that you could try. And again, once I have this document shared, I would share it with Timmy and Jimmy. I can watch both of them in real time, and I'll actually be able to see over here what they're doing, and I'll be able to click back and forth and say, you know what, Timmy, actually that vowel in the middle is aw. It sounds like aw, and if I'm on Skype I can demonstrate the hand signal for that, and I can correct those errors in real time and address those learning needs in real time. Thank you so much for tuning into watching. This is the end of this demonstration. I hope it was helpful for you. I hope it makes Orton Gillingham remote instruction a little bit easier and more accessible for you and your students. Good luck with remote learning. Hopefully it's over soon. Feel free to leave a like, comment, subscribe. I'll be continuing to leave these videos on remote Orton Gillingham through the duration of the closures. Thank you very much and have a great day. Bye.